Yeah. Good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the biggest Man United fan channel in the land. This is the United Stand. It's Thursday evening. You are joined with Kev. Kev is back in the hot seat. We've got breaking news this evening. I say breaking news, it's almost like conflicting news stories, so be prepared as we delve through it. But it's a big update. It's on Matthijs de Ligt. And the conflicting stories are, we've tried having a quick look before we come live on air, but it does seem that the deal for Jonathan Tah to go to Bayern Munich may well have fallen through. And this could be because Bayer Leverkusen had given Bayern Munich some kind of deadline, which they haven't reached. And what this is having is a knock-on effect. There's plenty to get through in the show this evening. We're also going to be discussing Jadon Sancho, the odds on him leaving Manchester United. It seems to be almost odds on, so we'll see where we are with that one. I've got some other stuff to bring in. Obviously, Sander Berge, I've not had my say on that, but there's loads of other stories going on, and depending where you sit, whether you're a glass half full or half empty, it depends where you look at this. Where are you concerned about the transfer business at Manchester United, or the lack of it, considering that we got Xerxes and Yoro through the door fairly early on? But let me just look down at the laptop for one moment as like I say, I'm trying to get my head around it all. 1 minute it seemed to be on, next minute it's off, and that is the world of transfers at this moment in time when you have these kind of PSR. You know, when you've got PSR, the world of transfers has changed massively. It is not as we know it. But it's saying that Bayern have chosen against signing Jonathan Tah this summer. That's coming from Kicker. Now, where I said before that there was a conflict of kind of reports coming out this evening, we've also had an update just recently, and this is great when you read it. It says that Jonathan Tah to Bayern Munich is not, in capital letters, is not off yet. Bayern's management are still keen to sign Tah if Matthijs de Ligt leaves the club. So, and that is coming in from Bild, which is a reputable source. What a word to fire out on the Thursday night. Producer Greg, I'm on fire, son. I really don't know where I pulled that one out from, but hopefully the chat enjoyed that. And as I always say, the chat on a Thursday night, make sure you get involved. So let's try and keep it, you know, football related, but you know, I'm open to anything. But where do we sit on this deal or the lack of deal? I mentioned before about PSR and how this is going to change football transfers forever. Look at the lack of transfer activity that is going on. It's so evident in the football world at this moment in time. And maybe a few of us got giddy, me included. We hear the words best in class, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and you know the new entourage that have come through the door, the likes of Barada, Dan Ashworth, and there's reason for excitement, especially when you're hearing buzzwords like best in class, and that they want to restore United to being, you know, near to Real Madrid in the next few years. And it's big statements. As a supporter, this is what you want to hear. This is how a big club should be acting. But if we look at the start of the transfer window, the INEOS revolution, the first signing through the door was Joshua Xerxes, which looks to be a good signing. Again, time will only tell with that one. But the one that blew things out the water was obviously Yoro, which is a great signing. Obviously, the 3-month layoff now with a foot injury, it's a bad one, and it's a tough one to take, especially when you want to get these names. You want them in the door, and you want them ready for the start of the season. And let's not forget, you know, I know we have the Community Shield, the Charity Shield, whatever you want to call it, coming up this Saturday. But a week tomorrow, the English Premier League season officially kicks off. And United will be that first game at home to Fulham. And it is a worry. So when we're talking about De Ligt, which again, I've just stated at the start of this, we're getting conflicting reports. It's on, it's off, it's on again, it's off again. We don't know much to take from this. It depends where you want to source this kind of information from. Are we any further forward? But on De Ligt, I mean, maybe some United fans, maybe some of you in the chat might tell me something different. Maybe you think United might have dodged a bullet, not going through with this deal. I've seen quite a bit of negativity, I should say, with the name Matthijs de Ligt. I've seen some people saying that if he's not good enough for Bayern Munich, why would he want to come to Manchester United? Which, in Roy Keane style, I'm going to say is a nonsense. I think it is a nonsense. Because of course he's good enough. Look at the players that we could potentially have available for the Community Shield, 3 o'clock on Saturday, and defensive reinforcements at the start of this season must have been high on the priority of Erik ten Hag's thinking. Surely Erik ten Hag he had a plan. I'm sure he still does have a plan, and part of that plan wasn't for Yoro to be getting injured pre-season, a 3-month layoff, which we might not really see him properly back in full flow till around Christmas time. And especially in the Premier League, you need these players to be coming in at Manchester United and hitting the ground running. And we're going to be robbed of that at the start of the season. There is question marks. We talk defensively now. There's question marks over whether Martinez could be available for the start of the season. Obviously, away at the Copa America, where there's talks of Wan-Bissaka injury, Harry Maguire, Lindelof, Varane has left Manchester United, which, it does beg the question. I know that Varane maybe wanted to leave United, but, if they could have dangled that carrot just for an extra maybe one season, and you manage the minutes of a Varane, he wouldn't be as injury prone. At least you can use him in the correct games. But as it stands at this moment in time, it does seem a bit doom and gloom. But when it comes to Kev, Thursday night shows, I am certainly the man in the bar that looks at that half a drink of it being half full. And I understand concerns about signings. I've heard Mark on his streams, other people that are not even interested in the United stand, but they'll still clip him up. They'll still throw it out, and what they're putting out is the fact that he's being toxic and negative. The word for me is concerned. And surely, as a Man United fan, would you not look deep down and think this is actually a concern at this moment in time? Some people might even say, what has actually changed? Yes, things have changed in the board upstairs. We've got the right people in the right places. But the thing that for me has changed, and why I am not pressing that panic button at this moment in time, is that no other clubs are really going out and, and blitzing the transfer market. And this is because of the fear of PSR and the kind of regulations that they have put in place. Nobody wants to be outspending their means and suffer a points deduction somewhere down the line that could literally either throw you out the top 4. You could be fighting for Champions League places, and the same at the bottom. You could be, a good few places above the bottom 3, and all of a sudden you sign a couple of players, and the balance sheets, proves otherwise, that you are not sustaining them profits and sustainability, and all of a sudden you find yourself in the relegation zone. A bit like Everton last season, had to really fight to get out of that. But I'm interested to know your comments on De Ligt. I mean, the main question would be, if this deal is off the table, which some outlets are reporting this evening, have United dodged a bullet? I've just mentioned Everton there in that breath, and the one name that springs to mind is somebody that, it seems ages ago now that we were actually linked with, Jared Branthwaite. United walked away from that deal because United didn't see the value that Everton had put on him. And to that extent, I'm quite happy to see my club stepping away from these deals. United had agreed, they have agreed with Matthijs de Ligt. This is something we've reported on the United Stand many, many times. Personal terms have been agreed with the player and the agent. Matthijs de Ligt wants to come to United. So where does this leave this deal? Or are you of the opinion where you think, I'm not really bothered, Kev. I didn't want him at Manchester United, couldn't care less. Maybe you're sat on that side. But what I will do now is, in true United Stand style, is drop into that chat. It's got absolutely off the scale. Hopefully I've not said something wrong. Of course I've not. It's Thursday night, it's Kev. Kev's not getting cancelled. Here we go. Welcome to the United Stand Members Club. That's something like a load of letters put together. I don't think it actually makes any kind of sense. But thank you very much for becoming a member and welcome. Yes, we are talking about de Ligt. So let's see if we got some comments from the community. I've got Darren Mulaney. He's a regular of the United Stand, so the finest of fair play to you, sir, says, who 8 we going for now? De Ligt deal is off. Who are we going for, mate? I think you're trying to say. And I'm not trying to be the grammar police. I'm not one of them knobheads, Darren, but that is a good question. You know, who are Manchester United now going to go after now that this de Ligt deal is supposedly off the table? Again, we're looking at the kind of stories that are coming out, and tomorrow morning, even this evening, I mean, this could change. The thing with these player transfers now at this moment in time, I can only link it to these players are like in a chain. It's like trying to sell a house. You know, you're not going to leave yourself short. You're not going to agree to sell your house and then be left out on the street, or having to go down to, I don't know, the local travel lodge to book in for a few nights, because it doesn't make any sense, man. You know, you want to make sure that you are covering what you are letting go, and you're either replacing it like for like, or you replace it for something better. Maybe you need the extra 3 rooms. Maybe you've never had a garden. You know, maybe you want these extra luxuries and you're willing to pay a bit more, but what you need is that money back in the door. And I think we are seeing this more and more with football clubs at this moment in time. I said a few weeks ago, last time I was on, this kind of domino effect. I said at that time, once a few of these transfers start kicking off, and then you'll get the snowball effect. Now, what you're seeing at this moment in time, and I say about this being, if anybody knows about buying a house, you might be youngsters in there going, what are you on about, Kev? Believe me, man, it's one of the most stressful things you will ever do. And when you get in that chain and you set your heart on what you want to buy, that house, and then at the last minute, the other people pull out because the house that they wanted, and that's the chain reaction. It all falls down, and basically you both sound, you know, you'll never know what that other house was going to be like. But you've still got a house. And that's a bit like Bayern Munich at this moment in time might be looking at it and going, well, if the worst comes to it, you know, we've still got Matthijs de Ligt at Bayern Munich. From Manchester United's perspective, it's United that are actually chasing this player. But that can really only happen, and we know through reading and looking from the outside that if Tah does join Bayern Munich, then Bayern Munich will then look to move on Matthijs de Ligt. So I suppose what happens with that, because we know that United have already agreed personal terms ages ago in the window with de Ligt. And I'm not, you know, you hear about this petition on Matthijs de Ligt. The Bayern Munich fans don't want him to leave. You know, there was up near 100,000 signatures on this petition to actually keep him, don't sell him. So, you know, fan opinion is huge. So is he a fan's favourite? You know, he must have put in good performances for Bayern Munich. I can't imagine that happening at Manchester United with certain players. Certain players in this club that I think there'd be petitions to probably get rid of out the club. Never mind keeping them. So de Ligt, I think, would be a good acquisition. Yeah, I think that works. A good signing, that's what I'm trying to say. Kyle Robinson says, sorry, Kev, I jinxed Yoro. Yeah, you did. With everybody getting the chat and blame Kyle Robinson. Listen, the injuries are just another thing. I I'd love to put this one just down to real bad luck. But you talk about jinxed, Kyle. You know, this is Manchester United, as Gary Neville would say. You know, this has been going on for years. But what was it, a metatarsal injury? I suppose it's not a strain or a sprain or something where he's been rushed into a game. I don't know, because I'm not, you know, high up in medical kind of science, but I'm probably better than some of the people that are doing that job at Manchester United. It's certainly an area or a department that needs a complete overhaul. Gary R, member of the United Stand Members Club for 22 months. What a legend. Says, my father died last Wednesday. Loved you and United Stand, Kev. Sorry, I wouldn't have done it so high-pitched at the start there. Mate, very, very sorry to hear that. Condolences from Kev and everybody at the United Stand. I'm sure I speak for everybody in the comments section as well. Kyle Robinson is back in and said, I think we can find 2 centre-backs for the price of De Ligt. Well, I'd love to know in the comments section the 2 centre-backs that you could get in for De Ligt. And this is, what are we talking for De Ligt? Is it somewhere around, say, 40, 50 million for De Ligt? Which I don't think is... Bayern Munich bought him for, what, 70 million from Juventus. And yes, he's had injuries, which again, you probably look and think, do we really need another player who's got, you know, who's injury prone? But I think he would be a good signing. Now, if somebody wants to hit me up with 2 players, I think that's a good question, the 2 players that we could sign for that money that United were prepared to spend on De Ligt, because I personally don't even think that for the money that we were going to spend or could potentially spend on De Ligt, a player who's achieved good things, well experienced, Champions League, international, a player of that calibre, I think you would struggle to get somebody for that same price, to get somebody of the same quality of De Ligt. For Christ's sake, Braithwaite is being quoted, Everton wants 70 million for Braithwaite. You know, De Ligt has played more games, more caps. He's got more experience in the Champions League, which Kev would always say is that the highest, the pinnacle of football. Forget international football. Champions League football is where it's at. You know, international football, you can pick the best players from that country. And it's still great to watch the Euros, whatever the World Cup, Copa America, whatever it's going to be. But again, you still kind of restricted into the players being from that country. Whereas the Champions League, you've got the best European teams in the world, and they have the kind of thing where they're able to sign the best players in the world. You know, you look at PSG with Messi, Mbappe, Neymar. You know, they could never play together for the country because they're not from the same country. But a club like PSG at that time, who could just go out there and spend, are able to put these teams together. So in the Champions League, for me, that is where it is at. And Rail is a member of the United Stand Members Club for 13 months, says, biggest summer window in a decade. Think we got way ahead of ourselves with that assumption, because realistically, it's same old right now. And listen, brother, I hear you. Brother, I just had to do that, they come into my head. The thing is, I do get that. And I know there's a lot, it's not negative. I keep saying, I think a lot of people are concerned, because if there's one thing as a Man United supporter, over these previous years, we've had our fingers burnt. And I think it's a bit like that girlfriend or whatever that's cheated on you, and once or twice, and even more. But you kind of stick with them. But more long term, you know that behind the scenes, that person isn't great. And the thing is, the Glazers are still at Manchester United, you know, and nothing much is mentioned now. And I can understand people saying that INEOS are a front for them. But the thing is, Sir Jim Ratcliffe hasn't come into Manchester United with his eyes closed, thinking all we have to do is tell them all about this new stadium development, whatever, say a few buzzwords, best in class, we want to be like Real Madrid. The thing about Sir Jim Ratcliffe is he's being realistic. And let's not forget, he did say it would take at least 2 years. So you work out how many transfer windows that potentially is, and that is how long Sir Jim Ratcliffe is kind of throwing at and saying this is how long it's going to take United to get back to kind of where they were or anywhere near challenging. So why the knee-jerk reaction now? Because a couple of signings aren't coming off. What I would say to you is the PSR thing, and at the risk of repeating myself, United are in this position at the moment where there's players at the club that they are actively looking to shift, and it is proving increasingly difficult. This has happened in past transfer windows. How players like Phil Jones, lasted at Manchester United on 100 plus grand a week. Martial at Manchester United, somebody who was injury prone. We never really seen the best of him. Maybe another club would have just cut ties. It's only now, this summer, that the club have made that decision and said, well, no, under the previous regime, what they were doing was at this stage now was panicking, thinking, well, we don't want to lose Tony Marshall, because we paid 50 million for him. Well, what's he done? What's he brought to the club? Yeah, but if we give him this new contract and give him a few years, we might be able to sell him. And then the question could be, but what if you don't sell him? I've not thought of that. How many millions in wages are you now going to pay for the next 2 years on 200 odd grand a week, just in case somebody comes in and thinks that Martial would be a great signing? And then it remains to be seen that how much they would pay. But there you go. A few more super chats to get through. Tombola is in there. Real name, that. That's quality if it is. I was at a fair the other week. I was on the old Tombola. Absolutely devastated, man. Bought a load of the tickets. You know what a tombola is if you don't. You buy a load of raffle tickets like for £1 and you dig for it. I think they said, if there's a number 5 on it, you win. Oh, pulled it out first time, number 5. Bottles of champagne, wine, whiskey. Bottle of Vimto. Kev went home with a bottle of Vimto. Worst day of my life. But Tombola, sorry to take the mick out of your name. I'm sure it is your name. It's a quality name. Says, with outgoings and the payment plans, what is our net spend? Can't be more than 30 million. Yeah. You look at the players. What is it? 8 players have departed Manchester United off the top of my head. I mean, even Cambuala. And that's where we're at with PSR. You're getting players actually pushed out of the clubs, homegrown talent. And I know that there's loads of you sat at home this evening thinking that if you could get 25 million for Scott McTominay, you would sell him. And for me, that would be a great bit of business. Well, that's what you have to factor in now. It's the reason that Conor Gallagher has literally just been picked up, put over the manager's shoulder and ran, to an airport in London and flown out to Atletico Madrid. I don't 100% believe that Conor Gallagher actually wanted to leave his boyhood club, but he's been pushed out the door because clubs are in this position now where they can bully a player, and they certainly would have made Conor Gallagher's life hell. He's probably thought, Conor Gallagher must be absolutely devastated. Listen, I know it's the United stand, but I am trying to make a point about PSR and how it has changed football transfers forever. There will be no change to it. Clubs are being very cautious. There isn't this happy just go out there and bang, 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 let's buy these players. Yeah, but we need to sell a few. Yeah, doesn't matter, man. We'll get rid of them next window. We'll hang on to them because it doesn't work like that anymore. Luke says, where do you sit, Kev? I've been moved. Stretford Tier 1. Well, Kev will be spending most of his time probably in the United Stand studio next season because I tend to mooch about, mate. I have been Stretford End lower. Tend to be, sometimes get my friends kind of ticket. You can't beat the Stretford End. I love the Stretford End. Stretford End or the old scoreboard kind of paddock in that end. And then unless somebody's nice enough, from work or whatever to say, here's, the 4 tickets for the fancy meal. You get free drink, 3-course meal. Kev's there all over it. Never remember the matches, but, the fine dining is absolutely spot on. That's one good thing I will say about Manchester United, but it costs a fortune, but I don't pay for it because sometimes my boss will say, there you go, Kev, go and knock yourself out. Kev literally does. Rob Taff. says he's been a member for 6 months of the United Stand Members Club, so fair play, as I would always say, that round. Says, great show as always, Kev. Injuries, lack of transfers is worrying, but the window's still open. League is too competitive for top four, to be honest. Again, it's not being, I don't see this as being negative. And don't get me wrong. If you're on social media and X and you're absolutely losing your shit and coming out with all kinds, I've seen, people carrying on about Luke Shaw today, and the guy, all right, he's injured, potentially injured again at the start of the season, and I do look at that and I think, well, why did you go to the Euros? I understand it's the pinnacle of any player to represent the country, a kind of Euros or a World Cup, and in Luke Shaw's kind of head, he's probably thinking this is my last chance, which. On reflection now, I mean, the injuries, we talk about the left-back situation. Fabrizio Romano was telling us at the start of the window that left-back was the main priority. We haven't addressed that yet, and that's where I use this word concerned. Other people will probably pick me up and say toxic, negative. Oh, he's so toxic, that Kev. I'm not. I am genuinely concerned. Why wouldn't I? This is Man United, the club that I grew up as a kid. I didn't have a say in who I supported. It was just a family thing. My dad put a kit on me, and that was it. You don't support City, you don't support Liverpool, you support United, or I'll disown you. I was like, all right, Dad, not a bother. Bought me the kit every season, jobs are good, and, lived through the 90s, 2000s, whatever, greatest time of my life. And football works in cycles. But we'll have to see, won't we? But that was the first super chat from Luke, so thank you very much. Dan is saying, hi Kev, did United overcommit on Yoro and Xerxes? What do you mean by overcommit? I don't think they've If Yoro hadn't got injured in pre-season, let's not forget, it doesn't seem that long ago he played against Rangers and everybody was waxing lyrical about this great half of football that Yoro played. And I'm not a big advocate of looking at pre-season games and reading too much into them. For me, the main one, yeah, to an extent on Saturday against City, but the injuries do worry me, where I look and I think, well, should we play some of the kids? What's the worst that could happen? Yes, we could get beat, but the Community Shield's a bit of a free hit, and it's kind of one of them trophies that if you win it, you go, yay, Community Shield, get it in the trophy cabinet, first silverware of the season, bring on Fulham. And if you get beat, you just go, I wasn't asked about that anyway. Stupid old shield. Looks like something that would be on my nan's wall. I'm not really bothered about that kind of nonsense. But the Community Shield is that. And the fact it used to be called the Charity Shield, it was a charity game. But it is a kind of test, especially because we're playing Manchester City, of where this team is going to be. And if Yoro hadn't got injured and he would have been playing against City, it would have been a really good test of an 18-year-old Yoro that United have invested heavily in. Could have got that move to Real Madrid. Real Madrid, being Real Madrid, just wanted to get him for free and said, well, you're going to have to sit it out, for another year or so and join us on a free, because that's what we do here at Real Madrid. United stumped up the money, and it was best for all parties. I think Yoro will get a lot more game time at Manchester United than what he would have if he'd have joined Real Madrid. But my point on this is, if he'd have been playing now on Saturday and had a worldie, or shall we say a man-of-the-match performance, keeps Erling Haaland quiet, all the jokes after the game that Lenny Yoro reached into his pocket, set of car keys, some Haribos, and then Erling Haaland, he pockets Erling Haaland. And all the stories, and that would have raised his profile. So to an extent, it's harsh. The injury is harsh. But, and what did Rob Stafford say as well? The league is too competitive for top four. Again, it depends on who they bring in. The concern at this moment in time is that Yoro's injured. I think he would have been a first name on the team sheet going into the Community Shield, going into the Fulham game a week tomorrow. Him and Martinez, we look at Varane, who we lost. We lost Varane, but in Lenny Yoro, we bought the new Varane. He's the Varane that Manchester United actually chased all them years ago. United were after Varane, a similar kind of age, but he decided to go to Real Madrid. But that's how good I think that Yoro can be, and it's just really, really unfortunate. Now I can see that some people will push the panic button because they'll be like, well, we need somebody else in. Well, this is why United have been chasing Matthijs de Ligt. It's why they've agreed personal terms. They want the player. And we looked at this and we were looking at a possibility of a back three. Well, no, you know, in theory as well, even if you're going to play with a two, we still need defensive reinforcements. Harry Maguire, can we count on him? Listen, he's been an all right servant at United. I've got nothing personal against Harry Maguire. I do look at him sometimes and think, you know, do you not want to be playing first team football at your age? Have you got no kind of ambition? Same with a Scott McTominay. Sometimes I look and think the same thing. You could be playing at a team. Look at Smith Rowe going to Fulham. You know, nobody really seen that one coming at the time. Arsenal, again, another youth product to go back to PSR. Fulham picked themselves up a good player, but the thing for Smith Rowe, development-wise, he's going to be playing every week. And some of these players, especially at that point of their career, I look at and I think, why wouldn't Harry Maguire now? You know, Harry Maguire, I'm sure somebody would sign him. We know that West Ham were interested. Maybe it's a pride thing. Maybe Harry Maguire looks at it and thinks, you know, the only way after leaving United is down. But at his age now, and if he wants to kind of resurrect and keep his chances of being in an international setup under the New England manager, he needs to be playing games. Them days have gone now. You know, Gareth Southgate's gone. It's not that time of friends. You know, I'm going to get me friends. You know, oh, Big Harry's not been playing for United, you know. No, he's not started a game last 5 games. And Gareth Southgate going, oh, well, we'll take him. We'll take him anyway. I can rely on him. You know, remember 4 years ago when that tournament, when he got in team of the tournament or whatever. Yeah, that was years ago, mate. It's in the past. Dan is in the chat. Dan! For the Alan Partridge fans, no, over your heads, says hi. Oh, I've just read that one, haven't I? Did United overcommit? So, Dan, what I would say is, I don't think they overcommitted. I think it was 2 players that United wanted. I don't remember much kind of bounce back on Xerxes, the first signing through of the INEOS era. And Yoro, I've certainly not found anyone. In fact, I have. There's a lad at work, and I won't mention him because I think he watches the United stand, but he was highly sceptical of Yoro, thinks that we've overpaid and all that. But that's for me and him to have words on site. And I did put him straight, told him how good he is, potential. We've worked it out. I'm not sure whether he's round to my way of thinking yet, but time will tell. You know, he did throw at me, actually. He's injured, Kev. Hey, when he got injured, I was like, come on, mate. You know what I mean? He's injury prone. I don't think he is. He's an 18-year-old lad. You know, he's just had a bad injury. But United have operated on him. We're going to get him back. And then you'll see the real deal, Yoro. Billy is in the chat saying, going to be painful. See, all these... don't like this. Don't like it on a Thursday night. We're seeing words like painful and what? Negative. No, not on my watch. But listen, Billy... We live in a democracy. It's freedom of speech. I always say that the United Stand community, it's you lot that makes it. And no truer words have ever been spoken by Kev. And I appreciate every single one of you in the chat, except the ones that call me Lee Mac. Billy says, going to be painful, but we should let Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Mick G, or who's Mick G? Mick G, Mick T, etc. sit. And, oh, Maguire, yeah, of course it is. God. Losing the plot, me. That's because I had a weekend in Ireland last week. I'm still not fully recovered. Yes, so I've just never called him Mick G before. McGuire. Yes, Mick G. Fist pumps and all that. Mick T, etc. Sit and leave in a year. Is it us teams or US teams do it, and players change their tune, it becomes harmful to their image. But have we not tried to... I say push Harry Maguire out the door. I don't think United could have done it any more friendlier, really, could they? I say the worry. I'm not saying worry. The concern? No, the thing with McTominay is that there was an opportunity for him to leave. At this moment in time, from what the manager's saying, he's kind of talking up Scott McTominay. And previous managers absolutely loved this lad. You know, Maybe he trains really well. There's no doubt he scored very important goals last season. And maybe Erik ten Hag has something to thank him for. Maybe he's thinking I'll give him another season, because you take the goals from last season away that Erik ten Hag, that Scott McTominay scored for United, for Erik ten Hag. United, I dread to think where they would be. I haven't got time to do that stuff. But I'm sure if somebody went through and took them winning goals out, there was late goals, whatever, equalisers, took them out, tallied the points off and seen where they would have finished. I know there's an argument to say, well, somebody else might have scored and that, but, maybe he feels like he's got something to say, thanks for. But again, McTominay, United could get money for, but United aren't a shithouse club like Chelsea. They're not going to do a Conor Gallagher. I couldn't imagine United putting McTominay, who, in sense of football terms, enthusiasm, is somebody, he doesn't want to leave United. He just wants to be at United because you come up through the youth ranks. United is probably all that he knows. But maybe one day he'll think, I need to fly the nest for the better of me. But they won't. I can't see United doing this Conor Gallagher thing where they basically say, well, we're going to throw you in the reserves. If you don't leave, go on, leave. You wouldn't, I don't know. It's not a nice way to treat someone, is it? It really isn't. Yes, we're up to date there, but if you just joined for any reason, I always like to refresh, because I know some people have got stuff to do, putting the kids to bed, a bit of washing up and all that, if you've not got a dishwasher. But, we'll refresh and recap on the fact that I suppose we don't know exactly where we are, and depending what source you want to read into, is that Matthijs de Ligt might not be coming to Manchester United, but at the same time, we know how things work in this industry, and they could change very, very quickly. But I did want to bring something in, and I was defending Matthijs de Ligt before, because I do get the impression that if it does fall through, you will get some fans that will start getting on to INEOS, Spinios, or whatever they call it, and they'll be in there saying that these lot are just puppets for the Glazers. That's all they are. The Glazers have got them on strings, and they're just laughing at us. Or the Glazers are laughing at INEOS. INEOS don't really know what's going on, but I honestly don't see it like that. I don't worry. But on Matthijs de Ligt, I mean, Paul Scholes, cracking football player, but he talks a hell of a lot of shit sometimes. But he's come out with, the title of this says, I know why Man United fans want to sign Matthijs de Ligt, and fans should be concerned. There's that word again, concerned. He was talking to the Overlap for the start of the Premier League campaign. He went on to say, with Man United, we're talking about players who can't get into their team, which isn't entirely true, Scholes. Loved you as a player. You're up there as one of my favourite ginger people ever. Up there with, I don't know, Chris Evans, Jerry Halliwell, and of course, Angry Ginge. But yeah, I mean, with the comments that Paul Scholes has come out with, and I can see what he's trying to touch on, but he's saying that he, de Ligt, in inverted commas, he's not playing for them. There has been an injury issue, which again raises the thing of why United signing players that are injured, but you would hope that he's kind of over that now. Any player can get injured. It has to be a big concern, he says, especially when Eric Dyer is playing in front of him. That is a massive concern for me. When you're bringing in players for 40 to 50 million just because he's played for him 2 or 3 years ago. So he's talking about de Ligt playing under Erik ten Hag, which I don't have an issue with. And I remember when de Ligt was at Ajax at that time, and that was a fantastic Ajax team. I've seen loads. I mean, the Ajax team of the, what was it, sort of early 90s, mid-90s, Seedorf, Davids, Kluivert, the De Boers. It was insane. And Ajax have always continued to churn out these top players. You know, that it's a well-run club, but if you were a fan of that club, you'd be absolutely tearing your hair out. Maybe that's what happened to Erik ten Hag, because he lost all, you know, all his best players, De Jong and de Ligt. Maybe that's why, maybe that's somebody look into that. It's probably not true. It might have just naturally gone bald. That's what happens. But yes, we've got Scholes. He's saying that because he played for him 3 years ago, What's wrong with that? What's wrong with bringing in a player into your current setup that you know that you can trust? And he was he the captain of Ajax at that time? An absolute leader. I mean, talk about a colossal kind of looking person. I mean, in stature as a central defender. This is what you want, a physical kind of player. And that's what De Ligt was. Some people try telling me that he's too slow. He's quick. He can move when he wants to. You look at them clips on YouTube. He can move when he wants to. Paul Scholes went on to say, bringing in a 40 to 50 million pound player, basically, he's coming to us almost like a second-rate defender. Well, I'll tell you something, Scholes. If this so-called second-rate defender signs for Manchester United, let's just say this evening, Summit breaks, Romano's on X. Here we go. You get them 3 words, Matthijs de Ligt, stop doing that now. Matthijs de Ligt to United, then he walks straight into this team. As long as he is not injured, we are talking about a major injury sort of crisis at United at this moment in time. If this lad is fully up to fit, fully up to speed and fully fit, he walks into that Community Shield game. What a great game, what a great showcase game to put him into. You put him out there and you say, let's see what you're made of. And especially when you want to start making these partnerships, you've got Lisandro Martinez, who again, there's a question mark over. I've got some of the comments from Erik ten Hag's press conference. I don't want to, jump on Mr. Goldbridge's. I think he's covered most of the quotes, but there's a few things that, that kind of catch your eye and you look at. But the injuries have been the main one. You look at that defensively now. I mentioned earlier Wan-Bissaka, injury doubt. Harry Maguire, injury doubt. Lisandro Martinez, possibly not ready. This game could come too soon for him, as they say. Yoro, we know he's out for 3 months. Luke Shaw's the new one today. Oh, I think that broke yesterday, that Luke Shaw might not be back. You look at that, and that is a crisis at the back. But I suppose the Community Shield could be a good game, maybe, to start looking at some of the youth players and playing them, because it's a great test for them. And at the same time, as I said earlier, there's nobody walks off that pitch at the end of a Community Shield kind of game 2 down in the dumps, unless you get absolutely dicked, I suppose, about 20-0, and it's like the biggest defeat ever. But it shouldn't happen, should it? It shouldn't happen. Let's just check out my favourite part of the United Stand, which is, believe it or not, the comment section, what you lot are saying. And let's see exactly what you lot are saying. Kieran is in there, and Kieran says, evening, Kev, time to hijack Tah, sick of people staying. That's a possibility. I mean, we talk about, I love these words, hijack and stuff in terms of transfer windows, and when you hear that, a certain player like Tah on United's radar, and I'm like, do clubs really have these big radars that are sat, big radar outside Old Trafford, and you've got like Ugarte and that just sat on it, De Ligt, all just sat there just waiting for the, here we go. But listen, it is something United could possibly do. What we don't know is what is actually happening behind the scenes. So if you've already agreed a deal with De Ligt, and you're getting wind from your side or whispers that Bayern Munich are close to the Tah deal, then yeah, like I said earlier, I do think it's this chain reaction. I do think we're waiting really now for Bayern Munich to announce that deal or agree something with Leverkusen where Bayern Munich then more or less push De Ligt towards Manchester United. We know he's agreed terms, so we know it's not going to be difficult. It's literally Romano sat there, press that button, it's done. And who knows, it could happen overnight. Rob Taff is back in. He says, Kev, our defence is ruined for Saturday. Are you available to step in at centre-back? Mark and Ricky can't do Eric's dynamic style. Yes, there's definitely a lack of pace with Ricky. He's definitely still got it up here. I would probably say that his mind probably, he tells his legs things that he wants to do, but he's not able to do them as quickly as he used to. Ricky would be great on the sidelines, wouldn't he, I suppose? Mark, I've seen Mark play. He's half decent, I'll give him that. Played at Villa Park with him, what was it, a couple of months ago? He invited me along to something. I'd never been, do you know what I mean? Kev don't get invited to these things. got the message, do you want to come to Villa Park and play on the pitch? I was like, dude, of course I do. Just playing it smart. I was like, yeah, as if I played in loads of them. Yeah, I'll have a bit of that. Yeah, I'll see you down there on the pitch. Great day, absolutely great day. But Goldbridge, he's got the skills. He's got a great selection of football boots as well. I mean, I turned up in... I was reluctant to buy a pair of football boots because I've not played for a while. I didn't even want to go into a local sports shop. I wasn't even spending £20 on a pair that I knew I was only going to wear once. So I managed to find the old five-a-side kind of trainers. Had to roll with that. Do you know what? I did all right. I didn't slip. Held my own. I think I played in the middle of the park, actually. It was good. It was good. Martin is in there and says, evening, Kev. Evening to you. You know, I like these people who always address me with an evening or hi. You know, it shows a bit of mutual respect between me and the viewer, and I can dig that. It says, evening, Kev. Can we just get Roy Keane back to sort everything out? You know, I love that. And anybody that's watching who went to the live shows, I think might be doing them this year again, but it's the first one I'd ever been to. We went to, forget the name of the place, in Manchester anyway, so it was handy for Kev. Century Hall, producer Greg is on the ball. That rhymed. Century Hall in Manchester. What a night indeed. But one of the questions, we went up on stage, we had a little sort of Q&A, fan forum kind of thing. One of the questions that was directed at Kev, if there was one past player that you could bring into this current team, and you can have a go at this, play along at home. No shame in that if you want to get it into the comment section. So there was one past player that you can bring into the present team now who might solve a problem in... who would it be? And straight away I'm out the blocks. That's a nonsense. Of course it's got to be Keno. I just said, and I think the actual comment that I said at this moment in time was, Roy Keane would set the cat amongst the pigeons at Manchester United. Imagine, he did it anyway. He did it in his time at United. I always remember, I mean, our new assistant manager, Ruud van Nistelrooy. There's a great documentary of when he joined United. It must be the Roy Keane documentary, actually. And it just opens up with Ruud van Nistelrooy, and they asked him about Roy Keane. What do you make of Roy Keane? And Ruud van Nistelrooy was just like, first day, he was like, Manchester United, he was like shouting, swearing out on the football, on the training pitch this was. And Ruud van Nistelrooy just goes, what's all that about? But he fast learned that it was basically Roy Keane. Roy Keane was just like Sir Alex Ferguson reincarnated into a player. You know, he's like a minion or whatever, and Sir Alex Ferguson just fired up Keane. Keane was the leader of that team. If you didn't like it, Roy Keane was going to tell you. And I'd pay ridiculous amounts of money to see Roy Keane. And I know he's failed, we say failed in the kind of modern day football era at teams. And some players have said in certain setups these days, the modern players, that there's no place for a Roy Keane. But if we had the prime Roy Keane, and that was the question, it has to be prime Roy Keane back. We need a midfielder. There is no doubt about it that we need a midfielder. We are continuing to be linked with Ugarte again. I like the fact that United aren't just panicking. I hope that they don't do it in the next whatever days now leading up to the season, where they say to Everton, we'll give you 70 million for Branthwaite. They won't be able to do too many deals anyway. They're going to have to prioritise the position that they're looking at. And the centre of the park is the main one for me. It really is. I mean, I'd written down here. Do you know what? Let me just have a look at the... I'll have a look at the chat and just see. On that question of who would you bring back from a past player into this present team, go. So we got Beckham, Giggs. All right, Rob Taft. We got Beckham, Giggs, Scholes, Ruud. I asked for one name, man. One name. There we go. Emil is in there saying Roy Keane. Yeah, Duncan Edwards, Tony. What an absolute shout. You know, I wish I would have seen this guy. You know, I wish there was footage of Duncan Edwards. Or I say more footage. I mean, totally before media, kind of that kind of the era that we live in now. You know, there isn't much good footage, but you listen to the best in football and the words you have to say about Duncan Edwards. I talk about stature, the size of the man for the age he was. They believed that he would have been, you know, the best. He would have gone on to be the best in his position. Great shout, that. Akash is saying Vidic. I've got a shout for Rooney, and I cannot... I can't argue with that. EB111. I can't. Colin is in there with the absolute GOAT shout for the evening. Nothing will better this. Colin Casey is basically saying if there's one player we could bring back into the current setup, that would be Phil Jones. Cue the Phil Jones face. There we go. There's a treat for you on a Thursday night. I feel a bit of sarcasm. I always call the normal chat. I always say to you, don't, on a Thursday night, when I open up the chat, it's a bit like opening a door, you know, to a party that you're not really kind of invited to, so you don't know what's behind the door, because we've had a shout for Phil Jones. George Best, I'm absolutely digging. Cantona, I like that. Paddy Crerand, what a player. What an absolute gentleman. I've just seen a shout for Fred, you know what I mean? And maybe you like Fred. Maybe Kev's getting too harsh here. You know, George Best is, you know, there's a few of these drink emojis doing that, and that's a great shout, that. But if it was my personal choice, I'm going with Roy Keane, because I'm talking at this present time. Imagine Roy Keane in this team. Do you reckon, imagine that issue, that's where I say I would have paid great money. Imagine Roy Keane facing up to Jadon Sancho after all the kind of issues with the manager. Because let's not forget, if you've got a Roy Keane, you do use your captain, and he would be captain at United without a shadow of a doubt. So that's your go-between between the players. So you would have, you know, the manager liaising with Roy Keane, saying, "You go and find out what's his problem." So then you'd have Roy Keane, who he's not going to beat around the bush, is he? He's going to be right up in Sancho's face, saying, "What's your problem? You know, get out there on the pitch. You paid good money to get out there and do the stuff." That's what he would do. Like I said it earlier, you're talking about putting a cat amongst the pigeons, a rocket up the arse. I think other players would thrive off it. There's nothing wrong with being pushed to your limits. If you've got a Roy Keane saying that you need to up your game, you know, if you need to hear that. But I also understand this modern day era players, some of them don't respond to criticism well, but it never did the class of 92 any harm, did it? You know, Beckham, Scholes, the likes of Giggs, all these players, Nicky Butt, who played alongside him, was like a mini Roy Keane to an extent, obviously not on the same level, but certainly battled. And, you know, if Roy Keane give him the hairdryer, you know, Nicky Butt would have responded well to it. And every player in that squad, you know, they responded to that kind of rocket up the arse, or whatever you want to call it. Roy Keane was an absolute legend. Easily a legend. So Lynn Hall saying Brian Robson. I love that. We've gone well off on a tangent here, but I do like, I always say, the Thursday nights, the community, once we get a question, which was a super chat and it was a belter, it's got everybody going. The majority of the shouts that I can see, Brian Robson, George Best, love the shout for Duncan Edwards, and Roy Keane is up there as well. Somebody's saying Rabbo. Is it Robbo? Some fancy one. Yeah, somebody's saying, yeah, it's 2024. It is. Jaap Stam. Oh, Jaap Stam was a big Dutch man. He was. What a man he was as well. And yeah, let's go back. We'll delve out of there for a minute. It always gets a bit hectic. I think I've actually got a sweat on. It's just the unknown. It's just going into that chat room and you don't know what the hell or who the hell is going to be there. But I think it was all right. The United Stand Ultras have certainly held their own there, and we've covered a nice little topic there. It wasn't on the production sheet for Kev tonight. We've gone off on a tangent, you know, and everybody had a different opinion. And I think that's what the United Stand is all about. We've got Michael oh, no, we haven't. We've got Neil Curran is in there. And yeah, so the super chat before was Martin saying about Roy Keane back to sort everything out. Absolutely digging that comment, my friend. Neil Curran is saying, are we more likely to lose more points through not making signings or breaking financial fair play rules? Crying emoji face. What a comment. I thought the comment about bringing Phil Jones back, as you can bring any player back. Somebody went for Phil Jones, somebody else for Fred. I get that, and I like that. 3 points deduction to get De Ligt, Ugarte. Yeah, my worry would be that we would bring these players in knowing that we're going to get some kind of free, let's say, 6-point deduction. And then in typical fashion, like last season, United didn't exactly hit the ground running, did we? So, you know, knowing United, we'd sign the players, hit with a deduction straight away. We start the season on -6. All of a sudden, we lose to Fulham at Old Trafford. Then it's Brighton, we get beat by them. And all of a sudden, the teams ahead of us, you know, we're already well in a relegation battle. So you tell me, Neil, would it be worth breaking financial fair play rules to get these players through the door? Listen, I think there's going to be movement. The Wan-Bissaka one is an interesting one as well. I personally think I'd keep him at Manchester United. I think as a right back, a backup right back. I still have memories fresh of the FA Cup final against Doku and what he did. And I understand that getting forward. Kev, modern day, it's all about bombing forward. Yeah, in the attacking sense, is that something that it can be coached into him, or could he learn? But defensively, one-on-one, Wan-Bissaka is one hell of an asset, should I say, to have defensively. But there are talks ongoing. We've heard talks about Wan-Bissaka, that he wants paying out of his contract, or he wants paying to go kind of thing, which, again, I don't want to get too much into that. You know, for me, it boils down to whether Ten Hag wants this player. And these players must know now. You're not telling me we're a week away from the first game against Fulham, a week away tomorrow, Friday, that Erik Ten Hag hasn't sat down with these players and told them exactly what part or what plan he has for these players in this squad. Surely they know. Surely they know deep down. And this is where some players can dig their heels in. You might have a player that's on, have 2 or 3 years on the contract and think, well, I don't really want to go to West Ham. And in Wan-Bissaka's case as well, it seems that wages were an issue. It was the same when they come in for Harry Maguire. Maybe that's why Scott McTominay doesn't want it. And they're looking at the wages that they're on at United. In Harry Maguire's case, he's going to be on good money, innit? But again, it comes down to that thing about how ambitious are you and do you want to be playing? So I would say that. Shane Day, it's a super chat. Super chat. Says, love you, Kev. Love you too, Shane. But refreshing to yourself as referring to yourself as a third person is grinding my gears, lol. Keep up the good work. It's just something I do, mate. It is something I do, and I will continue to do it. I'll bring characters in. I'll try and change. I'll give you a promise that I will try and change for the good. But I like the way you started off. We started off with a bit of mutual respect. You throw in, love you, Kev. Kev can change. I'll try. Many people have tried to, but I'll take that home with me this evening. One thing I do, constructive criticism. I'm all there for it. I'm just not here for abuse, which luckily, I'm not opening up the floor to get abuse, but I don't seem to get, anything like that, which is good. So we have this bond, I've been on here a hell of a long time. I always say that. So if you can't stand me by now, you've got no chance anyway. But what I would say is thank you for watching. Thanks for your input. I had a few other things I wanted to cover. I understand that we're getting up towards the end of the show. People have got busy lives. That maybe there's some people crying out saying, Kev, just stay on for another few hours. I'd love to. Nothing more I would love to do, but I do have a family and a home to get back to and a day job to go to tomorrow. Well, the thing I did want to touch on very briefly, and I did say at the start of the video, was on Jadon Sancho. That's popped back into the head there. But yes, in our group chat, the latest odds, I'm not going to hit you with them. I'm not trying to do one of them betting kind of things where I'm like, put money on Jadon Sancho leaving United, and then he doesn't, and then people are back on here going, Kev, I've lost my house, my wife's left me, the dog's, crying because it's so hungry, I've lost everything. I'm not condoning anything like that, man. I'm trying to say that sometimes when it comes towards betting, people do look at this when it comes to transfer activity, and the odds have really, really shortened on Jadon Sancho going to Paris Saint-Germain. Again, it's this merry-go-round, isn't it? You know, is there a deal? I mentioned Ugarte earlier. Is there a deal to be done there on Jadon Sancho? And I did say this the other week when I was asked. They've kissed, they've made up, everything's rosy in the garden at Old Trafford. He's going to bring him back in. And Erik ten Hag has been waxing lyrical about Jadon Sancho this week. But again, Kev being highly sceptical, I do look at this sometimes and think, Jadon Sancho, is he in the shop window? Is Erik ten Hag putting him out there, speaking a very good game in press conferences, saying that we've heard that Jadon Sancho's that good, he can play on the left, he can play on the right, you can even play him up top, you can play him in the hole, and that's something that Erik ten Hag has alluded to in the build-up to the Community Shield, because there's a bit of a concern, the injury to Højlund as well. I mean, Højlund, my brother, it's a bad one. It's sucker punch. You know, you think of the Højlund injuries towards the end of last season, comes back in towards the end of the season. But it remains to be seen in the Community Shield whether Erik ten Hag would have gone for Højlund. Would he have gone for the same setup that worked absolute wonders in the FA Cup final, which would basically entail playing a false nine? And you do look at that. I think that he would have maybe possibly still gone with that false nine. You have to take into consideration it's Manchester City, horses for courses. You can't go too gung-ho. I don't think we're good enough to go toe-to-toe. So we are going to have to play that game, and it's going to be counter-attacking football. And the 2 goals that United scored in the FA Cup final against City, it was just devastating counter-attacking football, using Rashford and Garnacho to the best of their abilities. But Højlund will have a mega contribution to make to this team, especially, you know, this season when he does come back. And hopefully he can get on the goal trail, because that is what it's all about. But I think do you know what? I need a drink of water. I've spoke far too much. I think I might have gone over the minute, so I'm really apologise. But what I would say, I'll just check I've not missed anything. Yes, I have. Martin says, hi, Kev. He says, your Irish accent is priceless. Listen, I was in Ireland last week. Absolute fantastic time in Donegal for one night. Back to Derry. Out on the town in Derry city centre is like tiny. And I mean tiny. I was going, I'm going to try and remember this name. I was coming out of a bar. I'd had enough. And when by enough, I meant enough drink. I was like, no, I need to go home. Coming out, this guy looks at me, Kev, United stand. I was like, oh, for God's sake, here we go. What was his name? Maurice Rafferty. If you're watching, you're an absolute legend, man. He didn't make me stop. You know, he just gave me a new lease of life. He said, I'm here with me brother. It's his stag do. We're all sat outside here. And I was like, Maurice, I'm coming to join you. You know, get me a seat. So I sat with them for, I think, about another hour. They bought me drinks. Time of my life. Honestly, Kev is living the life. But Maurice, if you're watching, thank you very much. But Martin, I go to Ireland quite a lot. My wife is originally from Derry. So it's the way that I tell them, hey, but it's a great accent. And the Roy Keane one, I think I'm getting there with that one. Could become some kind of online star with these accents. I am well aware that they're absolute dog shit. So, right, I think I've spoke far too much. Thank you for the interaction. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks to the mods. Thanks to all the usual United Stand ultras in the normal chat. I did pop in there when we were discussing what player you would bring back. A mixed bag. I love that. That's what football's all about, especially here on the United Stand. But stay tuned. We will be back. You'll have your morning show, afternoon, evening, through to the Friday. And then Saturday, we're obviously building up to the Community Shield. And then we're going to be looking ahead. You know, before we know it, we'll be walking out to this is the one at Old Trafford against Fulham. And that's when the serious business starts. But you've been watching the biggest Man United fan channel in the land. Take a breath, Kev. This was the United Stand. Cheerio.